expecting is Whitney. I would love to start as soon as possible because I have to end at 7. I have a 7:23. Um, all right, I just texted her. I can send this. I sent. Oh, so perfect timing. It's just you and I have to get out of here. Uh, you're red. Oh, okay. I get red when my skin is oily, so when it's cold, I cannot be red. Literally, I just bought like 2 primers trying to solve my red chaos. Um,
I probably should have reapplied. Okay.
huh?
Did I miss the calling you to order?
I'm about to call it right now, girl. Because I have to be on this call. I think all these people keep on thinking I can. If you have sent you an email, we are just making sure. We gave you a slide on the Reach Affordability Program to come if you have any questions. I don't know anything about the Reach. I don't understand how politicians really work. You get it. I don't know anything about this program. Why is there a slide given to me about it? Okay, you about to press record, right?
Yes, so you hit the gavel.
Yeah, all right. I got one. DeLorean Morin, it's 6:04 p.m. We are here to start the legislation bylaw policy meeting. I'm calling the meeting to order right now at 6:04. We're going to skip introductions and kind of just go to the meeting. I do want to know the meeting has me and Whitney Williams. We got an email from Maura and Emmanuel that they couldn't be here. It's unclear if Maura's still recovering from her medical absence. So old business, drug crisis in the Bronx, and the letter. So the letter's obviously here. The only thing I added, it's in light green, is I was saying as budget season approaches, I think you added that. I thought additional funding and okay, so and I put the requirement that all treatment providers be funded to collect syringes and escort their patients. I'm not sold on the escort, so let's hold on this. But I do want to talk about what I learned at a district cabinet meeting is that New York City Department of Health. So when we talk about On Point, Boom, Thatcher, most of their funding, not exclusively, but they are definitely for sure getting New York City funding.
Yeah.
And that funding comes with the syringe collection and syringe distribution both, right? But it's my understanding, and that's not clear also, that New York State doesn't fund their treatment providers with a syringe collection or distribution. I know it's a little bit of new business that the city Department of Health and Hygiene and New York State Department of Health and OMH come to our meeting next month. Maybe it can be another joint meeting like we did for the treatment providers, is what I had spoken to the district manager about, to understand who more clearly these lines of these distinguishments. I wouldn't be surprised if HOCO doesn't support distribution of syringes, but even if we could require everyone to collect syringes, would increase the service providers who collect syringes. because it's my understanding, I know we always quote that there's like 20 providers in the hub area in general. All of them don't have the same source of funding. And that is my understanding where some of that, we would need anyone with any funding on all levels to at least be required and commit to collecting syringes. I don't know if we want anyone to add to the distribution of syringes. That is actually very controversial.
Yeah.
um,
Just thinking of as a funding mechanism, I assume that the reason why not all of them, I don't think that all of them want to collect syringes.
I don't know, and I
Because
could
the
understand this.
Some of the treatment providers are just treatment providers, right? Like they have different roles. So
That's
some of
why.
them, yeah, I do think that there's probably, we would have to be more clear about what each one's mission is and whether or not that's something that they already do if we're trying to mandate requirement of syringe collection.
I think even if it's not under a goal, I feel like it should be called being a good neighbor, right? Like no communities really want these programs. Okay, we have to put them. They need them. Our members and residents of the city have addiction issues and need this. But part of any treatment provider, regardless of what that type of treatment is, I think to be a good neighbor, at the minimum, is a collection of syringes because that can be a byproduct of that community. I think distribution is more, feels like a violation. And the reason I want to add, another thing I wanted to share is New York City is about to start a program, New York City Department of Health, is a syringe exchange program, sort of like bottle exchange. So we're not even saying that a person who collects syringe has to be the most sophisticated person in the world when we're doing the exchange, but they obviously need funding. If we're gonna add syringe collection to there needs to be a stream of funding dedicated to that. And I'm not even saying for them to overwhelm their current staff, right? I understand there's going to be a hiring of new staff, right? And there needs to be a stream of funding for that. And I want it to be like I'm calling it to be a good neighbor, right? And to be a good neighbor, I think they're fully funded to treat things that are going inside, but I don't think there's a lot of discussion on what's going on outside for the businesses and communities around them. But I think that's why I think that's where my theory, but I'm making up stuff based on a problem I think the community has.
I think the organizations that we've mentioned here generally have street outreach,
yes,
needle cleanup,
yes,
peer support, and
yes,
like those
yes,
folks who are already outside.
Yes.
So yes, like but I think that there are some treatment providers like methadone clinics.
Yeah.
Are not going to hire staff to go out, and if anything, they might get new funding, use it to like have existing janitorial services on their premises.
So that's what I was thinking. So like in sanitation, just like regular sanitation, like Auntie Anne's has to, for the first 2 hours, have to clean their sidewalk, sort of like, regardless of what you're doing, you need to take the snow 4 feet away.
Right. Do you think that the existing treatment providers that have brick and mortar locations in our district do not clean up around their doors in that way?
They clean up around their doors in regards to snow and dirt, but they do not focus on syringes, no.
Okay.
And I know Marilyn told me I was gonna send questions for her because I know H&H came to her yesterday or 2 days ago, and I just didn't. I literally started drafting them. I don't know why, and just at least send the draft. But our brick and mortars meet sanitation requirements, right? Like, but there is nothing for syringes. And I think what I'm realizing is that all of these RFPs are written by the agency that funds you. And so that's why I thought next month's meeting, having the 2 agencies where they would get, 3 agencies where they would get their funding from, kind of explain the limitations and parameters around that funding, and see if we could, what resistance they perceive would happen if we ask. Because right now they're not being good neighbors. That's what our community feels like. Our community feels like they're the cause of the problem, and that they're not being good neighbors. And so I thought that would be great. I see there's a member of the community here. I'm so sorry. You can sit with us, yeah. There's plenty of seats. I just can't see you because you were directly behind me.
I didn't even know.
Yeah, I didn't know when you walked in, actually. And yeah, so hi, what's your name?
My name is Gloria.
Hi, Gloria. You live in our community, I'm assuming.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
I'm Caldwell.
Okay, hi, nice to meet you. If you want to say something, just raise your hand so we can make sure that you can engage in the conversation as well, okay? So we have this letter, it's only a draft version. This is the agenda. Um,
And then I have a copy of the bylaws.
yeah,
Is the meeting being recorded?
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's where I think it could be good. I think requiring someone to distribute challenges might seem very in violation of where they stand. Then more have been like muddling on this escort idea. I think this is a false presumption. I don't know if there's evidence to support that you go to treatment, let's just say whatever, you get your methadone, you get your Suboxone, you do your little class, and that there's like a loitering byproduct that is happening. That members of this population is just loitering around causing an issue. I don't know if there's any evidence of that, to be honest with you. I think the community we're seeing at the Robert Clemente Square, I think those are like just street homeless people who are not doing programs. I don't know where they come from. But that's where this idea of escorting people, sort of like accessorize, which I know people say don't even work, but like there are some organizations that have escort services for people with dual diagnosis, escorting people. My paralegal, who be all of in these conversations because I'm working 3 jobs, is escort them where? But like, if you're attending a program and you're going to collect your methadone and Suboxone, usually those people are in a shelter. You know what I mean? Those people are somewhere in the community, semi-stable. I don't think they're street homeless people really. If you're going to go get services,
Not necessarily, but don't you think they have freedom of movement?
that's what I'm saying. We can throw that out. I feel like that could be controversial. Okay, I think it could be controversial too. That's why I said pause. I'm not too sold on that. Go ahead.
You ladies are definitely on the right track. But I think just as a suggestion, maybe we can outsource instead of dealing with the population that's under treatment, because it would require another level of shushing them away. Accessorizing is not going to work.
Yeah.
We're going to try to change whatever. But I would suggest something like, because I do street stewardship and cleaning, much like the dope fund,
The dough fund?
when they do the street janitorial, you can actually hire an independent contractor to just do the hub. Because it was in the news on Bronx 12 about a week or so ago about the hub and how the community feels that although it was changed and improved, now we have all of these people under treatment that after they get their treatment and their dose or whatever the case may be, they do loiter. But if you do something like have those hours of service and then have an independent, small community-based organization, maybe another non-for-profit that just comes through the area to sweep up, to clean, those kinds of people, they don't necessarily like to see other people infringe on what they think is their privacy. Because under drug usage, they think that this is my space. They no longer think about the community. They're only there to service their own needs and their own addictions. So if maybe we can counteract that by doing something like just having somebody show up or a small community-based organization come and just start cleaning the outside of the facilities. In contrast, I heard her mention, yes, they are obligated to clear the street from debris and snow. But to throw on top of that, um, the monitoring of the recipients that are receiving the treatment, I think would be overly cumbersome. But maybe we can involve other communities.
So I actually never thought about a third.
Chairs or to um, exercise all those powers. But then even in 9, we say, or 10, the officers and appointed members have the powers and perform such duties as assigned to them. So I think both of those cover those instances. Do you have another example of what might be different?
No, that's perfect. As long as we solve that. All right. So this is all we have to write. We just have to write the word
I think
no less.
have been elected, and then maybe at a special election.
Yes, special elections.
During a special election to occur within no less than 30 no more than 60.
And then I think the only exception is if it's summer.
Okay.
What is that? What is our summer called?
Summer,
Recess?
summer recess,
Yeah.
which is in the months of July and August.
No less than 30, no more than 60 days after the vacancy is announced at Gin Board, except for times when board is in summer recess. And then whatever the language is at that timer, then election will have to happen. I would say the first meeting post summer recess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Here's me summer recess.
Shall occur during first
Called meeting there is
called meeting.
mhm.
Called
Because we probably be meetings because the first full board meeting or call meeting because the full board meeting doesn't meet until the end of that
Yeah.
of that September.
Yeah, it has to be called full board. 'Cause I think we reference it as full board, right?
Yeah.
Here.
during first full board meeting following.
Is this the kind of meeting where one could discuss discretionary funds?
Yeah. I don't think we could because we do policy, legislation, and bylaws. So hopefully we can finish those. So I can stop saying that there's work. But yeah, so if it's discretionary funds for a certain agency, it could live in multiple committees. But yeah, so do you have something to say about discretionary funds?
Well, I was looking to see if maybe my small community-based organization would be able to apply for some kind of discretionary fund. I'm very open to the suggestion of maybe even offering a solution to the syringe problem, which I already do at my site with the offering syringe. And um, excuse me, maybe on PPE, which I already do, and maybe use the grabbers.
Do you have any commentary on here?
Sure. So great. So we should the city council members have the discretionary fund process. It's the application that you have to go online. So if you Google New York City Council, and the application timelines is clicking and ticking. So the deadline is upon us. I believe it's the end of February. So you should try to do that tonight just to see what the process is. And then and then you have to upload all the documents as it relates to budgetary documents. You have to also be a 501c3 in full compliance with all state and federal guidelines, which means your CHAR registration, your Attorney General registration review, your IRS 990s are filed and on time, along with making sure you have an agency annual budget and an outline of your program has to be. So all of that is in the application. It's a lengthy application, so give yourself some time to review it. And yeah, I give myself 2 hours. I used to do 20, so I'll give myself hours and hours. So if you're doing one for one program, give yourself at least 2 hours because it's going to ask you a lot of questions and to get in the weeds of a program because it is extremely competitive. If you know where your program is, where your area where your program is going to be servicing, that's the council member you should look at. But there's several different pots. There's discretionary dollars, which is directly to the council member. There's a special initiative, youth, senior, and then there's other pots, speaker, citywide. So be very conscious of what your program is going to work on or attack, and then write passionately because it's competitive. And then remember, there's a difference between capital and discretionary. Capital is brick and mortars, materials, equipment, and expenses, usually salaries and OTPS. All right. Good luck.
Thank you. So with the 501, I'm already in application status. I'm recently formulated, so I don't have last year's 1099.
So it's likely whenever you're applying for stuff where you are not 501c3 and you're still pending that status, that you should identify a likely fiscal conduit. A fiscal conduit is identifying another agency that is
Fiscal sponsor?
fiscal sponsor. Yes, exactly. And that, remember, that agency, if your project is chosen, will operate your funding according to the budget. So that's why it's good to have your operating budget in place, or program budget, so that, because the the fiscal sponsor, fiscal conduit, will probably react very strictly to that budget unless you have opportunity to modify it throughout the program year.
I definitely love the fiscal sponsor because it takes away the accountability aspect with regards to you only having access to the funds. Um, my nonprofit, I like to say is for transparency. So that's great. I was trying to see I was trying to see if I can apply for a CCT aid grant from the EPA, but I found that I was ineligible because you have to show 5 years of previous relevancy. So, although I've done stewardship for years, until the last 2 years, it wasn't on paper. I use NYC Service and NYC Parks to log my hours. For accountability and transparency's sake, I use Google Maps so that you know where I'm at all times. I also have mapped out detailed 2 mile cleanup from the beginning of Region 2 at the very corner of Hunts Point all the way up to the hub, and then perpendicular to that, about 4 blocks further down is where Calden's at, which is where I reside. So this is my community. I see these people all the time. Um, yeah, so I'm gonna definitely try to see if maybe I can help myself. I'm within capacity, and it's definitely feasible. Um,
Yeah, so obviously we don't give out discretionary funds, but I think the community board is obviously one community to community and is always interested in filing advocacy letters. But yeah, so the city council offices all have constituent services people that can be potentially even more detailed in their process and obviously more informed about their deadlines. And you keep us updated on where you are in the application process if you're successful with that. And then then we can see, we can advocate. Obviously, it's just two of us here, but all we do is just make suggestions for the full board.
just to
Yeah. Yeah, but that's where, and obviously the two-sided council people for our district is. Well, I think obviously for you to be 100% Salamanca, you describe all of Salamanca's district, and not Highlands district, all of Salamanca's district.
I've been to Mrs. Gibson's office.
Okay, someone says. So yeah, okay, so we edited that from God, I hope for the last time.
Well, to make a note, we did ask any board members and an executive board
If they had any more things.
if they had any more comments, if they had any more suggestions, we asked them to submit it at the last full board meeting. And we have now provided the full bylaws draft to the full board. So at this point, once I do these final edits, I'm not touching these
Again. So, so we have done everything. I'm so good with time, Lord. You guys, we are adjourning early. Usually we have presenters. You might have heard us that hopefully in in March, we have a few city agencies and state agencies come and speak to us so we can understand how they fund certain things in our community. And then, but this meeting, we didn't have any speakers. And so that's just so you can have an idea of what meetings look like. This one's a special one.
I was trying to make it here yesterday because you guys had the environmental. I
Yeah.
mentioned stewardship, but I missed it.
Okay.
So I said, I'm just gonna.
Okay.
It's great to have you and have your voice in the room. And if you can make it to one of the environmental committee meetings, I think that would be right up your alley.
Yeah.
Yeah, to have them everyone.
I'm proactive every day, so I try. All of my work is strictly voluntary. What I'm trying to do is trying to make the transition. I'm not trying to be like a gold digger, but I would like to be able to make myself self-sufficient while also improving the quality of the community.
And you will not be a gold digger. Everyone for a livable wage. Okay? A livable wage. You can be committed to a good cause and still earn a livable wage. So, okay, anyone has anything else to share? Okay, so this meeting at 6:44 was very productive, very efficient. I love the word this meeting. Very productive, very efficient. District manager, do you want me to email you anything?
Whatever the next steps are.
Okay, so I'll just cut the new business and send it again. Okay, this meeting at 6:44 is now adjourned to our next meeting in March. Okay, perfect. All right. Great job.